Okay, thank you for joining us today. We're here with Gordon Burns of OpenPages, and we're going to talk about the recent OpenPages 6.0 announcement. Gordon, in your announcement, you make the statement that version 6.0 represents the first of a new generation of enterprise GRC platforms. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'd be happy to. When GRC became a category about 5-7 years ago, companies were deploying GRC platforms to manage very tactical departmental initiatives. SOX, or Sarbanes-Oxley, is a good example of that, where companies deployed a GRC platform to manage controls around their risk to financial reporting. This was mostly departmentally deployed and compliance-oriented. As companies started to add more domains across their GRC initiatives, they realized that they could put several different initiatives on top of a single platform. We've seen many companies combine financial controls management with operational risk initiatives, as well as compliance or internal audit initiatives. And the ROI from this type of convergence is really driven by a reduction in the number of systems that you have to maintain, and the consolidation of separate but parallel assessment, control testing, or reporting activities that go on. And we've seen ROIs north of 30% for this kind of consolidation, payback periods in just over a year. So that really drove the convergence of GRC initiatives onto a single platform. The next generation of eGRC platforms is really about driving insight from the information on those platforms, and that will really help drive business performance. And so what I mean by that is taking data from different silos of risk domains. So for instance, audit finding data with operational risk loss data, with compliance data, and using that to gain insight around a particular dimension like product or region or process, to understand and gain insight about that product or region or process, and make better decisions about how to improve business performance. So for instance, if you're trying to figure out how to allocate money across different initiatives, you would want to have that risk, compliance, and internal audit data to make your best decision, to make a risk-adjusted decision about where to allocate resources in the company.
Okay, great. Now, specific to version 6.0 of the OpenPages platform, what are the top-line benefits customers can expect to receive from the new version?
Really, the most important benefit is this insight that we've talked about, and we deliver this insight through an enhanced business intelligence capability. As part of the platform, we OEM the Cognos reporting engine, and we are upgrading to Cognos 8.4, which will allow us to deliver much better insight associated with this GRC data. Insight will come in a couple different ways. First and foremost, the new reporting capabilities will allow for dimensional modeling. So that will allow us to very easily build new reports so that business managers can gain insight around GRC data from different dimensions. It will also allow for us to deliver those reports as dashboards so that the business users can explore the data in an ad hoc manner without getting IT involved. And then finally, the Cognos capabilities allow us to deliver these reports in a variety of different ways, one of which is through mobile devices. So these reports can be actionable reports with drill down through a mobile device. So it allows for an executive that wants to get quick risk exposure status while they're remote can do so through a smartphone. And the other way that we syndicate this information is through an Office integration. So we still see a tremendous amount of reporting that is done through either PowerPoint or Word. And with a direct integration to Office, you can update with live data from the OpenPages platform into either a PowerPoint or a Word document. So those are really some of the key features around delivering better insight from this GRC data. We're also enabling greater regulatory flexibility through an upgrade to our compliance module, which is called Policy and Compliance Management. And we're allowing companies now to manage regulator interaction, which is becoming increasingly complicated with all the exams and inquiries and requests that multiple regulatory agencies are asking companies. We provide a programmatic way to manage regulator interaction, as well as regulatory change, which with the passage of Dodd-Frank is becoming increasingly challenging. We provide a way to extend the OpenPages compliance framework and allow for policies and risks and controls to be updated on a more programmatic way, so that you can be assured that you are maintaining policy and regulatory compliance over time as regulations change.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue actually into the next question. As you mentioned, Dodd-Frank is kind of the latest regulatory bill to get companies scrambling, but certainly unlikely to be the last. You'd mentioned briefly about how 6.0 helps companies quickly adapt to that changing. Could you go into a little bit more depth, specifically when a new bill comes along or new regulation, how OpenPages is positioned to help a company react quickly and not put at risk any of their operations?
Sure. I think that the first and foremost thing that companies need to take into consideration when thinking about a regulatory compliance solution is to realize that we're in an incredibly dynamic environment, and that rulemaking is going to be rolled out through Dodd-Frank over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 years. And so what companies really need to think about is how to manage through that change, not just how do I deal with the sort of current regulatory infrastructure. OpenPages' approach is to map regulatory requirements into a common set of controls that then are supported by individual tests. And this common control framework can actually be extended. So if a new regulation comes along and does not map cleanly into the existing control framework, in OpenPages you can extend the framework to include the new elements, the new control elements that would address the new pieces of regulation, and then map the control tests into those new controls. And so the important concept is to have sort of a common set of controls into which you can map the regulatory requirements and the control tests, so that you can actually have one control test that might end up satisfying multiple regulatory requirements. And this is what we call test once and satisfy many. The other piece of the puzzle here is to make sure that when you do add new regulatory requirements, that you can be sure that they will be tied off on from a control perspective. And so we have a closed-loop process to make sure that when new regulatory requirements arise, that they will be mapped into the control infrastructure without gaps.
Okay, great. And my final question for you today, Gordon, is just around the technology itself. You mentioned that OpenPages 6.0 is built on IBM Cognos and powered by IBM's AIX. What does that ultimately mean for the customer, and what technological advantages does this possess?
IBM is known for very scalable technology that will handle, large volumes of data, as well as different kinds of activities. So with the OpenPages platform now being supported by what we call the BlueStack, WebSphere on AIX, plus Cognos reporting platform, what we're going to be able to do is scale in terms of data. In other words, being able to handle large amounts of GRC data, so millions of of GRC objects, as well as to support a large variety of activities associated with that data. So report generation, workflow handling, issues and action items, alerts, control tests. So scalability has to happen both at sort of the functional level as well as the data level. And being on the IBM platform will allow us to do both.
Okay, great. Well, Gordon, thanks for your time today and further insight into OpenPages 6.0.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.